Hi, I'm Trish Smith. I'm the owner of the Thornbury Bakery Cafe. I've been asked today to demonstrate how we make our rhubarb pies. To start off with a rhubarb pie, the two key ingredients are excellent fresh rhubarb and a beautiful flaky crust. So I'm going to start off making the crust. I always start with unbleached pastry flour. I get all of my flour from the Hanover mill, New Life Mills in Hanover, and it's just a very light unbleached pastry flour. So I start off with about 5 cups of pastry flour, and we put that in, and I add in a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a tablespoon of brown sugar. The brown sugar just gives it a nice, slightly sweet flavor, and it actually gives it a nice color as well. So I always mix up my dry ingredients first and make sure there's no chunks. If you wanted to be technical, you could sift it all together, but there's no need to be that fancy. Just put it in the bowl, move it around, break up the little chunks with your fingers, and move on. There. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add in 1 pound of shortening. I use only all-purpose vegetable shortening. I don't use lard, and I don't use butter. So the first thing I do is I just cover it with my fingers, cover the shortening up, and then I grab my trusted pastry cutter, and I just start mushing it up. And you just keep moving it around and covering it up with flour and pushing it off, getting it in there. And basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to get it to be the size of small peas or meal of some type. You always hear about pastry is intimidating because if you overwork it, it's going to be tough and it's not going to be flaky, and that's true, but that happens after you add the liquid into it. So at this point, don't worry about it, take out your frustrations, do what you need to do. There we go. Something along those lines. Now what I do is I put a little bit of a well in the middle. I start off with 1 egg, and I put the egg, and you have to mix the egg up on its own. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to put together in one dish and mix it together 1 egg, 1 cup of water, and 1 tablespoon of just plain white vinegar. But if you put the egg in the water and then try and mix it up, it's just a lot more difficult. So if you mix your egg up first, add in your vinegar. Some people actually I've heard use vodka. You just need something along those lines, but just a vinegar, an egg, and then nice cold water. Dump your water in, mix it up. Now at this stage, you just want to mix it up so there's no chunks of egg in it. And then dump it in your little well that you made. Now, this is a very handy tool when it comes to making pie shells or pastry. It's called a bowl scraper. It's about 89 cents at any store, home hardware, whatever, anywhere you go to get your kitchen utensils. What I do is I hang on to my scraper, and again, I just start spinning my bowl and pulling the pastry or the flour mixture over top of the wet mixture in the middle, and just keep doing it, and then start pushing it around. Basically, you don't want to squeeze it ever. You don't want to like really knead it or squeeze it or anything like that, because that's what's going to make it tough. You just want to get it, just want to incorporate it. So if you just keep moving it and shoving it around until it's all somewhat damp. Okay, just until it's incorporated. Like there's a little bit of stuff at the bottom. Just move it around till it pretty much is one big blob. Then what I do is I scrape off my bowl scraper, put it back in, and then you take a little bit of flour. I just keep a little bowl of flour handy, and this is what I call my dusting flour. And you just put it on your bench or on your table, and then pull your dough out onto the dusted surface, like that. If it's really wet, you can dust it with a little bit more flour. If it's not, then don't worry about it. I dust my hands a bit so they don't get too sticky. And then you just kind of pull it all together into, in order to cut it. What we're going to do is, this recipe makes 6 shells. So if you if you're making, you'd have 6 open pies or 3 obviously double crusted pies. This is a double crusted pie. We're going to do a lattice top double crusted rhubarb pie. So we'll use 2. I'm going to wrap up all 6 and refrigerate them for a while. I'd say at least 30 minutes to an hour. Let them refrigerate before you roll it out. So use some flour on your hands, make it into a nice even shape that you can divide easily into 6 chunks. I need to get my knife. So I just divide it into 3 pieces this way, and then across like this. Now, when you want to make each piece into a nice oval or a disc, because that's the shape you want it in when you start to roll it out. So rather than rolling it into a ball and then once it's, you have to then squish it down and then roll it out, just start it off into the disc and leave it like that. You wrap this in plastic wrap and you pop it in the fridge and let it chill for at least a half an hour, up to an hour, and then you'll be ready to roll it out.